I wrote it about 5 or 6 years ago after a year-long marathon of researching. It was arduous to say the least, but there's nothing really written in the published materials about evolutionary science at the time that I wrote this. So I had to go basically through papers, research papers, and into cutting-edge institutions to join discussion groups. And so I felt like at the time I really understood the cutting edge of evolutionary science, and that's evolutionary psychology, anatomy and physiology. And for me it explains everything. It explains how the body works, why it works the way it does, why it goes wrong, and how to recover from most of the problems that the modern world is faced with. So for me it was hugely enlightening, and I felt that I had to at least write a book at that time to reflect where I was then. But having said that, I've now done 5 more years of research, and I spend much of my week sometimes researching, and so I feel like I've really developed those ideas further. And now my lectures and talks are probably the place to find that real cutting edge information now. So on the website enlightenedliving.com there's a link to a video that I've done of one of my lectures, so that people can really catch up with the cutting edge side of what the evolution's saying about health and well-being. There's a big difference between how much people earn. There's a big difference between what people want. It's a what we call a left brain community, which is one which is based on competition. Everybody wants more all the time. It's a consumer-based idea of life. It's a capitalist-based idea of life. And that requires people to keep wanting more. It's an insatiable community where everybody's constantly looking for the next thing all of the time. And in a community like that, cortisol levels and stress levels are very high all the time, and people are fairly hyperactive. People compete with each other. So you end up with pretty disjointed communities where there's a lot of productivity perhaps, but there's very little social cohesion. So you end up with breaking down of communities. And we have to ask ourselves quite soon whether or not that's the kind of future that we want. Do we want to keep breaking up our communities, getting more and more loneliness in communities and competition and disparities? Or do we want to move to a more right brain community, which is one which is much more around building social bonds with other people, and actually perhaps not pushing so hard for change all the time, and being happy more with what we've got rather than what we want all